bar, which I know you're not comfortable with.
Well, I can't because it's a conflict of interest because the trial judge, Susan M. Tripp, that was on this case, if she didn't even listen to my affidavit, like I said, she sat on a disciplinary board on the Oregon State Bar and is also sitting on the litigation section of the Oregon State Bar. So it's like, with her being an honorable judge and a trial judge and her not listening to me, it's like, well, how am I going to get anywhere to the Oregon State Bar when she's got ties with people there, you know? And
is your primary sort of goal are you filing the complaint?
Well, yeah, because what Douglas Christopher Hanson had done and the research that I've done over the weekend, he violated the Oregon Constitution because as soon as he received the police report or whatever and was informed that I was a victim to the case, he was supposed to notify me as soon as possible, and he didn't even do that. Like I said, had I not been able to be notified, I would have been able to exercise my rights as a supposed labeled victim. But from what it looks like I was telling you a couple of days ago, that it seems to me by him being an Attorney General's task enforcement for the victim's rights, if I was to make a complaint, my biggest concern is how would I know that by him being a chairman of the Noncompliance Response, how do I know the complaint's not going to go to him and he reviews it and tries to cover like he's been doing everything else? Because what he did was wrong. You can't use me to prosecute my husband during the criminal procedure. I have no victim advocate, I have not attended any court procedures. No one has notified me I was a victim, but you used me to prosecute my husband by saying that he promoted me as a prostitute. But from what I was reading through the victim's rights law, through the Oregon Constitution, like I told Douglas Christopher Hanson, if I was a victim, why did he charge me as a prostitute if you knew I was being forced or intimidated some type of way, psychologically, emotionally, physically, to commit a crime that I was forcefully being forced to do? But instead he charged me because the officer cited me for prostitution, and he used that information to prosecute my husband and saying that he promoted me as a prostitute. But if I was the labeled victim, then how come I wasn't informed? And then he exclude me and label me as a witness at the end of the case to exclude me. That's so illegal. Someone has to hear about this. Someone's got to listen to, because that's not fair. When I was in a pimping and pandering case before, there was an advocate, there was people, informing me that I was a victim and things like that. But in this situation, he violated. And as you heard the video, he said he made me into a victim just so he could violate my civil liberty of my rights to be married. That's wrong. You can't do that. He took the law into his own hands, and I personally believe that he needs to be written up or something needs to be happening, because that's not fair. And then Nellie Wright was a DA that's substituted for Douglas Hanson during my husband's courts, and now she's at the Oregon Crime Victims Law Center. That's a conflict as well, because then she was a part of his case, and how's that benefiting me? It's not, and it seems like it's a conflict of everywhere. My next move is I'm going to contact the Attorney General and then write Walter Biglow and notifying what had occurred and what can we do to solve the situation, because you guys can't have the Attorney General's Attorney General's Task Force on Victims' Rights Enforcement page and have all these rules, but then have a district attorney that violated and manipulated the rules of a witness and a victim. That's not right. You prosecuted a man, like Kim Larson told me. If I'm the witness, then who's the victim? She told me there's no victim. Well, if there's no victim, then how did Douglas Christopher Hanson prosecute my husband and use me as a victim/witness? That's still not fair. And then,
well, yeah, as you know, I'm not an attorney myself either, so.
But you're the program coordinator.
Right,
for it.
And what you did is you've called and you've made an informal complaint, and that's what we can do in here. Doug Hanson no longer works for the DA's office. He does not work on the Attorney General's task force at all.
Everybody say he does.
OC CVLC apparently has a conflict, so they can't give you legal advice.
Because Nellie Wright sat on substituting for Douglas Christopher Hanson, and from what it seems like,
and now she works for them. Yeah.
That the Attorney General seems like that. It looks like she's kind of dirty too, because it was never called the Attorney General's task force before when he was on the subcommittee, and now it seems like as if the Attorney General is covering for the DEA and the judge, and that looks weird.
Well, that's not accurate. Actually, it's the same task force. The task force still exists, but Doug Hanson is no longer part of that task force. I think you were on. As I said, the only other option that I can think of is what you had suggested yourself before, which was to contact a private attorney who might be well-versed in these matters to see if there's anything that you can do going forward.
But
I just don't have any other ideas for you.
Where's Doug?
See, he put everybody in a tough situation because there's a conflict of interest in so many areas, and then the thing that's weird is that you would think that for a judge, an honorable judge that's supposed to take her oath of office into consideration and abide by it and by the laws and rules, for her not to listen to a victim's affidavit, I just think that's weird. And by him appealing and going through post-conviction relief, no one's notified me. I called the Oregon State Police, and they even told me that he's not even classified as a sex offender.
Yeah, so I think that, yes, right, I gave you that one number to call. So he's not on any kind of probation or post-conviction or anything?
No, they kicked him off. I had called his PO because I called the parole board.
So he's free and clear. He's got nothing else to report on.
Nope.
So.
They said that he don't. Yeah. It's like a runaround, because they say in the beginning there was like, oh, he's off, but he's still not clear, and they still have until 2019 to classify him as a sex offender. But what I don't understand is, how can you make somebody register if there's no victim for him to stay away from? And then on top of it, nobody notified me that he was ever discharged. Nobody let me know any of the above. And the major thing I'm really upset about is the fact that Douglas Christopher Hanson tried to say, well, he got cocky with me and think that I was stupid, so I played into his hands, making him think that I was stupid and didn't know the law. I know what a district attorney is. I know there are lawyers. But for him to be an attorney and try to say he knows how to do his job, well, for him to do his job, he put a lot of conflict of interest on a whole different government entities and agencies, and that's not fair because of his wrongdoing. And it seems to me that he still gets to practice law. And that's wrong, because he violated civil rights. He violated the Oregon Constitution, which is adopted from the United States Constitution. You can't break the Constitution, and that's not right. And to me, it seems like the judge has to cover the DA, because if an honorable judge is an honorable judge, she shouldn't have allowed the DA to prosecute an illegal case. So she should have been able to say, wait, hold on. What do you mean you don't need the victim here? Why don't you need the victim here? I have Douglas Christopher Hanson incriminating himself for almost 2 hours, and nobody sees that this is wrong. Nobody wants to help. My own equal protection is being blocked, and how's that fair to me? But every other government entity, Stephanie Allen, who was his PO, all told me that they can't talk to me because of the conflict of interest, and I have to call the city of attorney. Well, why does everybody else have an attorney? And
yeah,
I can't.
Crime victims often are without an attorney. That is for sure.
And that's not fair either.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately the system that we have at this point, and that's why we have some agencies, but in your case it sounds like it's a conflict of interest. The only other agency that I could suggest that you might try is legal aid, and I'm not sure that they would be able to assist, but of course you could reach out to them. Otherwise, yeah, maybe a private attorney would be able to give you the best advice.
And that's what's so hard, because you know why? That's why I said our equal protection is being blocked, because as soon as
I know you don't feel comfortable calling the Oregon State Bar. But
I mean, I could still try, but like I said, I just know it'll be a conflict because I have wrote up Douglas Christopher Hanson through there, and it seems like.
Yeah, but they have a lawyer referral service, so you just call the Oregon State Bar and say, I'm looking for a lawyer. I'd like to be referred to a lawyer that maybe specializes. It sounds like your focus is on the crime victims' rights, so maybe a lawyer that has has that as their focus, then generally what the Oregon State Bar will do, and they don't, I think, don't even need to have your name at this point. They can just refer. They usually give you like 2 or 3 names so that you can choose
and pick which
what would be most appropriate. Yeah.
Yes.
The thing is about getting the referral is you get a lower, so often, like if you were to pick up the telephone book, for example, and call a lawyer, they have a charge, right? And sometimes they're $200, sometimes they're $300, whatever their charge is an hour.
Right.
If you get a referral through the Oregon State Bar, that referral allows you to have that first consultation with them at a lower rate
Right.
than their hourly rate. So
Okay.
it's just a little bit less than that. That's kind of why. But when you're talking to them, I don't think they're going to look up anything that you were involved with or not involved with. You know, that it's just a referral line that many people use. So you can definitely
Yeah, but a lot of
try
them will ask for the case number first. And the reason why I say that is that
Yeah.
I've done that 3 different times. And then first they say, okay, I'll take your case. And as soon as they look more in depth in it, they tell me, oh, well, I can't take your case anymore because it's a conflict of interest. That's you can't go from, oh, well, write me a demand letter. Don't let me know how much you want to. Oh, by the way, I can't do it anymore because of a conflict of interest. Who's going around putting a conflict of interest? That's illegal. That's violating my protection, my equal protection.
And then some lawyers, as you know, they're just going to look at the case and decide whether or not they feel like they can handle it or whether they feel there's
I'm going to make
that's going to be, resolved.
I'm going to make a change to this because I know so much about the victims and rights and witnesses and the advocacy of all of it. I'm going to keep pressing this issue. Maybe one day you might be able to meet me. I might be able to help you with your task enforcement because it's not fair. If the defendant has a representative to help them through court procedures, I would think that
it'd be nice if victims of crime did too, that's for sure.
Right, and that would be only fair. Doesn't everybody have the constitutional right for equal protection? If the victim doesn't know criminal law, how would they know what rights that they can exercise, or how do they know what crime victims' rights means what? Luckily.
Yeah, no, you're totally, Jessica, you're hitting a good point, which is it's very difficult.
And the only reason why
that gets passed to you.
Right, and the reason why I say that is because it's not illegal to record the district attorney, especially when he's violating the Constitution. The only way you can prove it is record, and that's exactly what I did because he was manipulating the role of a witness and a victim. And that's what I'm going to keep trying to find out to get my voice heard because you can't all the laws that I've read all weekend, what he did was beyond illegal and unconstitutional. He shouldn't even be able to practice law right now. And I'm going to find a way to get my voice heard one way or another because what he did was wrong. You can't violate somebody's civil liberty, period.
Well, Jessica, I'm certainly sorry all this happened, and I wish I could think of some more things. And if I do think of more things, with your permission, I'll give you a call back, if that's okay with you.
So, yeah, that's fine. If you find anything or any type of help that resource or anything that might possibly be able to help me with this, please do, because I'm going to try to find a way. I'm going to contact Rose Ellen Bloom and ask her, hey, this is what happened with an attorney down there, and it's wrong. You can't allow this to happen because the question is if he's done this to me, how many other cases has he done this that he thought he could get that he'd gotten away with? Fortunately, I just caught him up because luckily I went through a pimping and pandering case before. So that's how I was able to know what he was doing was wrong. Hold on. I was a vulnerable victim. A vulnerable victim is a juvenile dealing with a child under the age of 18. You can't file vulnerable victim when I'm 26 years old at the time. And like I told him, you cannot make somebody into a victim and then charge him with the crime. That doesn't make sense. That's like saying, well, a person commits a crime on me, but I get charged for their crime that was done on me. How is that fair?
Hey, Jessica, when you were charged, did you had an attorney at that point, right? Your defense attorney?
Yeah, I had a public defender, but they gave me.
I was just wondering if you felt comfortable with them, if they were.
Well, they gave me a citation, an EDP offer, right? Because I was married. The name that they seen that I had Jessica Yulia James, which was my maiden name, and then Jessica Yulia Johnson. In 2009, March of 2009, I had caught my first prostitution sting, like I told Douglas Hanson. If the system properly really cared about the prostitutes really getting out of lifestyle, they would make sure and make it mandatory and guarantee that you go to a program, you get the proper help that you need. Because do you know how hard it is for me to get out of the lifestyle by myself with no support, no family support, no anything? It was hard. So of course prostitution is like a drug. You get a rush and then you relapse when you try. Luckily I had somebody that stayed with me, my husband. Unfortunately, like I said to Douglas Christopher Hanson, you made me into a victim, but you're trying to prosecute an innocent man. Is it what? Is it because he's black? Is it because what? What is the reason? And he got mad. Well, I'm not a racist. I didn't call you a racist. All I said was, what was the reasoning for you to be prosecuting my husband when you don't have the factual facts and the evidence to prove that he's guilty? You are talking to the victim, and he's illegally. The reason why I noticed that there's a conflict with the Oregon Crime Law Center too is because he made me into a victim, but then he also listed me as a witness. But then during the situation, he made me believe I was a victim, but then at the end turned me into a witness and excluded me from all court procedures. And they can't do that. You can't. How do you represent somebody that in the system that says it's a witness, but then she's got videos and paperwork saying that she's a victim? And that's where the conflict of interest drew up, because what side do we represent? How do we represent the victim and witness? And then another thing that came up is that my husband's public defender, because I told you I wrote an affidavit to the judge and to Gail Ryder, his public defender, and Douglas Christopher Hanson was not supposed to talk to the defendant's witness, and he did that. That's what also drew up the conflict of interest. I might as well be a lawyer with all the information that I've known, and that's only...
You've certainly done a lot of research, that is totally for sure. And apart from all of this situation, or in this past things that have been happening, how are you doing? Are you do you feel, are you safe? Are you...
I mean, I'm fine. Like I said, it is stressful and it is overwhelming, because you're fighting for something that you want to be changed. You know, if everybody in the system goes to jail for breaking a law, just because you're a government official or state worker does not give you the right to break the law and manipulate the law and take it into your own hands, and you do not get a consequence for it. That's very wrong. You took away someone's pursuit of happiness, because during that criminal case, I wasn't allowed to be near my husband. That's pain and suffering, because you made me believe that I wasn't allowed to be near my husband, when all actuality, I was able to be by my husband. How would you feel if you was taken away from your spouse for no reason? How do you explain that to your child? Why? And eventually I started to look up and research, and then I realized I wasn't a victim, and I told them, this is wrong. You made us separate from each other for what? There was no reason. I was never a victim, but then you made me believe it. And then you used my juvenile history with another man and patted my ex-pimp's criminal history onto my husband. You can't do that either. I've stayed up and lost sleep and stuff like that because of this case, you know. And even though they said that
I can tell it's consuming and frustrating. I'm really sorry. And that's why I'm hoping that, you know, wherever you are right now in your life, that hopefully you're connected to a group of support, folks maybe that have been in the life and can connect with you on that level, you know. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. It's a personal choice for sure.
And I have a question. Do you guys have like committees or like public get-togethers about victims' rights or things like that? Because if so, I would like to put an input on it, because I've actually been listed as a victim in a prior case, and then I was also used as, you know, I want to be able to make my voice and change some of the things in the victim's rights.
Yeah, you're trying to make a change for a positive, it sounds
right,
like.
because you can't do that. You can't take away people's civil liberties, and you can't make somebody into a victim when they're not. I didn't call the police on my husband. And that's why I try to tell Douglas Hanson, you know, if you're the DA and your job is to talk to the victim, well, here you are calling me a couple of days before he has trial, but then tell he was already in trial. That's the thing. He made me think that he wasn't in trial, that he was just going through motions, but really he was already in trial, and then told the judge that he didn't even need the victim to be present at the sentencing. And that's
Well,
wrong.
Jessica, unfortunately, we've talked, and I can only sort of the options that I knew about, we talked about already. And if I think of anything else that I think could be helpful to you, certainly I'd be happy to give you a call back. But I'm kind of out of ideas. And other than you contacting a private attorney
Should I
actual legal advice, that's up to you, of course.
Is there a way, or somebody can write me a letter saying that I have a conflict of interest with them because of a DA doing the things that he did?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Well,
that's again, like you'd mentioned, consulting with a private attorney, and that might be your best avenue. But of course, I do realize there's charges for that, and so it's personal choice for you at this time. And then legal aid again is maybe another option for you to contact. And
I'll keep trying. I'll keep trying. I'm not gonna give up, because I believe that justice should be served for not just on the defendant's end, but on the victim's side, because you said that I was a victim to a crime, but then come to find out, the truth is out that there's no victim, so you used me to prosecute an illegal case. Of course I'm very upset, but like I said, I know your hands is tied and you're limited, and I do appreciate you calling me back and listening to this, and I'm sorry
I can't be of more help, but if I do think of something, I'd be happy to give you a call back. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Jessica.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.